So, The Last of Us came out, and on PC it is a bit of a mess. I've personally had no issues, but I have quite a high-end PC. I have noticed it's very VRAM intensive, and I have noticed that the performance can drop. I run it at 1440p high to ultra settings. If I had more VRAM, I'd easily be able to run it ultra. But our greatest gamer ever, Jaytech has decided that he's going to talk about something that he has no knowledge about, which is what I love about Jaytech. So we're going to have a listen to that. And yeah.
I understand that this video is going to hurt a lot of people's feelings, but I decided to do it anyway. And because I know I'm going to hurt your feelings, I thought it would be nice to feature PC-only gameplay throughout the entire video. I've captured a lot of gameplay on this laptop featured by Steam Store. You want to go click the link in the description. It will take you to my Steam account. You will see screenshots and achievements that I've gotten from different games that are accessible.
I do like how he starts his video with, look, here's proof that I play on PC, because he's one of those people who doesn't understand that some people just want to talk about games, so you have to prove that you're a gamer to him, because if you don't prove you're a gamer, you're not a gamer. This is the kind of people that we deal with in, like, fanboy communities. There's no good part of being a fanboy. And look, here I am playing PC games. I mean, I could flash up how many hours I've had in COD, how many hours I've had in Forza, how many hours I've had in many other games. I mean, at this point I've finished The Last of Us Part 1, so I could flash that up if I wanted to, Jaytech. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really actually matter, because I don't need to prove that I'm a gamer, because I just play games. Isn't that your whole preach thing? Isn't that your whole preach? We play games and we don't talk about games. But here you are, preaching that you play games. Come on, man.
Are accessible only through Xbox or PC. So I'm trying to be a nice guy during this video, because I'm gonna piss off a lot of people, and I'm not gonna feel bad about it. So let's get started. This is my opinions on The Last of Us Part 1, the PC port. I think it's hilarious. I just think it's funny.
Imagine a game you love very dearly, and it was exclusive to PlayStation or Xbox or PC. Imagine a game you absolutely love, and when it comes to other consoles or other platforms, not being happy that other people get to play it, getting annoyed that people get to play it, and then when it comes out poorly optimized, you laugh in their faces because you have some sort of superiority complex over a piece of plastic. So when I play games like BeamNG or other PC games like Forza, I would love so many people on PlayStation to play Forza. I would love so many people on consoles to be able to play BeamNG, because they are great games. Overgrowth, it's a fun game to play combat wise. I would love people to play that on consoles. So when it comes out, when it does come out on consoles, I'll be like, oh brilliant, more people get to play this amazing game. No, not with Jaytech. It comes out poorly on console, on PC. Ha! You suck, you should buy a PlayStation, you should buy an entire console just for a couple games. This is the mindset he has. He finds it funny that people struggle to play a game on fairly solid systems. Because later on he'll say, are you still running a 10 series? Oh, you poor bastard or whatever. No, 10 series are still very powerful. My girlfriend runs a GTX 1080 and she can run Hogwarts Legacy. She can run all the newest games. But games that come out unoptimized aren't her issue.
I just think it's funny. It reminds me of Xbox, right? Xbox fans were talking about, what is it, 12 teraflops or something like that, and all of these other specs on paper that were better than PlayStation 5. But once all the comparisons were done, the PS5 was outdoing the Xbox Series X. And it's happening again. I had no problems playing The Last of Us Part 1 on my $400 PS5. Not a single problem. I was able to even get to Platinum, getting every trophy in the game. It was an amazing story. It looked amazing. It felt amazing on the DualSense controller. On paper, a lot of people on PC...
Again, he flexes the fact that he got a Platinum on The Last of Us Part 1 remake. I don't have a PS5, but I have used the DualSense controller at my friend's house to play Gran Turismo and a few other games. And these adaptive triggers and stuff, I think it's a gimmick. Also, it ruins the battery life of the controller. We couldn't get past like 2 hours of Gran Turismo without the battery dying. Because of the weird, like, oh, it's hard to accelerate because you have to push the trigger down. And all that stuff. And he's laughing because he thinks he's better than people because he spent $400 on a console and people with PCs can't run it. Newsflash, it's not their PCs that are the issue. It's the fact that they hired the developers who did the Arkham Knight PC port. And that is the issue. They can't develop games. They clearly can't port games. Like Nixies, who made Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales, they are beautiful ports. God of War was a great port. No, probably a couple months after actually, because it did have a memory leak issue, but it was still playable and it still ran really, really well. So it's obviously not. It's the minority right here, not the majority. Returnal had an amazing port. Returnal looks better than the PS5 version by a substantial margin on PC, and it is easy to run on a PS5 equivalent graphics card.
You know, on paper, a lot of people on PC say, well, you know, I spent $2,000, $3,000. My PC can run circles around your console forever. And that is definitely true on paper. But these games are optimized to perfection on a cheaper piece of hardware, giving us a more stable performance versus, you know, your overpowered PC that they kind of don't care about. They just throw the game over there. You know, they expect you guys to fix it because you know, you guys fixed Elder Scrolls and you got mods and stuff working on.
Optimized to perfection. Okay. Optimized to perfection is kind of a weird statement because there are many games that have come out on consoles through the years that have run really, really badly. I remember an example from the PS4 and Xbox era was Assassin's Creed Unity. Now that ran like poo on every single device. It ran awfully on PC, but it also ran awfully on consoles, barely hitting 25 FPS consistently. And still to this day on the PS4 it runs like absolute poo. Modern day Elden Ring struggled to hit 60 in its 60 FPS mode. It hovered around 45. And still to this day you have modern games that can't do 60 FPS. Like even The Last of Us that you're talking about, at 4K it can't do 60, or 4K it does 30 FPS, maybe 40. And that's the issue, you know, optimization isn't there. And you say on paper that my machine can, well, a lot of these $2-3 grand PCs can outperform a PS5, but it's only true on paper. It's not only true on paper, it's true on every single platform. It's true, it's just depends on optimization. And I love how they flip the fact that it's a closed device that you can't modify yourself as a benefit. It's like when people on Apple say, well, I can't install third-party apps on my iPhone, that means it's better. It isn't. You should allow people to do what they want, and a PlayStation is, sadly, it's a lockdown device. If you want to get a better graphics card, you can't. You're stuck with the way it is. Being a closed device is great if you don't want to touch it. Being a closed device isn't great if you want to upgrade and do what you want with it. Technically, I don't need to upgrade my graphics card, but I want to. Because I want better graphics, and I want to have more fun, and I want higher frame rates. I don't have to. My graphics are beautiful, and I'm running every single game between high and ultra at 1440p. I don't play in 4K because the just doesn't look that much better than 1440.
You know, you guys fixed Elder Scrolls and you got mods and stuff working on Cyberpunk. So, you know, I mean, you guys made a name for yourself of, you know, you can turn garbage into gold. And that's awesome. Like, that is amazing, right? You guys have those type of skills. So don't expect developers to tailor-made their games for each and every one of the combinations of PCs that you guys have built. Because no one PC is the same, right?
It's almost like he doesn't know what DirectX is. Now, if you don't know what DirectX is, or OpenGL, or Vulkan is, it's an API. Basically, you have your graphics card and your computer components, and you have the game. Now, these can't directly talk to each other because they just can't. So the API is the thing in the middle that allows the two devices to connect. So say if the game needs more system resources, or it needs to put the CPU resources somewhere, it allows it to talk to each other so the game can work. A PS5 has an API. It doesn't use the same API because obviously it's made by different people. But the premise still stands. You saying, well, your games don't run very well and they can't optimize it for every machine. They kind of don't have to. They just have to optimize it in general. They don't have to optimize it for every machine. That's not how optimization works. They just make it run better by optimizing it in general. They don't need to optimize it for every single machine they're building. So it's kind of a flawed point.
PC is the same, right? There are different people with different budgets. There are different people with different skills. And I believe this is going to continuously happen. I don't know why anybody is using the 10 series to run The Last of Us Part 1. I'm not a PC master race enthusiast at all, but I know that's weak.
Yeah, a GTX 10 series like a 1050 Ti or a 1050 is kind of weak nowadays. Even a 1060 can be considered pretty weak. Like, it won't run the modern AAA games at high settings. But you gotta realise how cheap these are now. A GTX 1080, which is still very, very capable, is about 120 quid. It's very, very cheap. A GTX 1080 Ti is about 150 quid. They're from 2016. Yes, they're old, but they are still very, very capable consoles. I'm going to have a check how performant they are, because I know they are pretty performant. So I've got a article open here by TechSpot, and we're going to talk about how performant a 1080 Ti is. Now, a 1080 Ti, like I said, can be probably getting in the UK for about 150 to 200 pounds. And yes, it did come out in 2016, but there are people still using these graphics cards because they are very, very powerful still. So we'll go through the benchmarks. It's 2022, so there isn't full modern games on this, but they're only a year old. Hitman 3. Hitman 3 is a pretty demanding game. 1080p high settings, it runs at 112 FPS. 1440p, you get 65. Total Warhammer 3, which is a notoriously demanding game. It's more CPU demanding, but you get the idea. 1080p high settings, 75 FPS. 1080 Ti, 1440p, 51 FPS. Far Cry 6, 1080p high, 102 FPS. 1440p, 83 FPS. War Thunder movie called, we won't go over War Thunder, that's a million years old. Rainbow Six Siege is a million years old. Here we go, Cyberpunk, one of the most demanding games that has come out in the last few years. Probably more demanding than any game, and still looks pretty good. 1080p medium settings, 84 FPS. Now, if you wanted 60 average, you could probably do high, or even a mix of high and ultra. 1440p at medium settings, 57 FPS. Death Stranding, 1080p very high settings, 150 FPS. 1440p, 117 FPS. F122. Oh, that game runs on everything, I forgot about that. Assetto Corsa's not a new game. Halo Infinite, here we go. Medium settings, 75 FPS at 1080p. 1440p, 64 FPS. Hunt, we don't care about. God of War, here we go. Here's one of your favourites, Jaytech. Original quality, oh, that's PS4 settings. Why have they done that? Forza Horizon 5, here we go. High, 116 for 1080p, 101 for 1440p. Performance summary. Every single game compared to the RTX 3060, and the RTX 3060 is quite new. Percentage difference, it's in some games it's up to 27% faster than the RTX 3060. You don't know what generational leaps are. The games still run well on old hardware for one reason, because they are still very performant. You don't need a top-end graphics card because they'll last you for years. Like my 3080 will probably last me a few years if I just kept going with it. I would obviously eventually have to turn on the settings. Like, I actually had a 1080 Ti, and I could run games when I first got it at 4K max settings. Now we're looking at it's more of a 1080p machine or a 1440p machine at medium to high settings. So yeah, eventually you have to turn the settings down. But that's the same with consoles. And I might actually bring a clip in of Linus Tech Tips talking about this recently, on one of his hot takes video, where he said it happens every time a new console comes out. The new console comes out, PC can't keep up with the price to performance. It's true. For £400, well, it's £500 in the UK, the PS5. It's pretty hard to build a PC for £500 that's comparable to the PS5. Give it another 2 years, it'll be doable. That's how PC works, and then a new console will come out. It's how it works at the end of the day.
PCs are at the verge of being obsolete for gamers? Looking at the performance, affordability, and range of games on current consoles, this is just cyclical. It always happens. The first year or two after a new generation of consoles launches, they are untouchable in terms of price to performance ratio, and then Sony and Microsoft just sit there and let the hardware stagnate and become obsolete. PCs catch up, and then a new generation of consoles comes out, it leapfrogs, and so on and so forth. This
top is weak. I know that. So again, The Last of Us Part 1 is a remake. It was made for the PS5. To see people on PC run it at 720p to get high performance, or run it at 1080p to get high performance, defeats the whole purpose of you guys getting a remake with all the bells and whistles. I'm hoping they're gonna get a good patch out for you guys, and I'm hoping the individuals that I know won't play the game find a way to play the game and post some gameplay, even though I know they won't. But it would be cool to see people that, you know, were a part of the PC port begging community begging for these types of games.
I like how I call some PC port beggars. They're not just asking for a game. They're not politely asking these developers, "Oh, do you mind putting this game over?" No, they're begging. They're on their knees. They're groveling at their feet. Please, please, Sony. Please, may I have The Last of Us on PC? It's been 10 years. I'll do anything for that The Last of Us. They're groveling. They're sitting there. No, they're not. They're patiently asking for a game. And let's be honest, if I wasn't, you know, I had like 55 million games to play, but I loved The Last of Us. I played it on the PS3, and I tell you what, it was a great game then, it's a great game now, and I still love it. And I like how you're talking about how people run the games at 720p and 1080p, and it defeats the purpose of a remake. Now, we won't go into semantics of what a remake versus a remaster is. I personally think it's more of a remaster than a remake. I also think the £70 for it is astronomical, and it shouldn't cost that for a 15-hour game. I don't care about the replay value. I love this game. I absolutely love The Last of Us Part 1, and even I'm like, even at 50 quid that it is on PC. Also, funny fact, it's still £70 on PS5, and it's 50 quid on PC. Yeah, even I think it's a bit steep. But running a game at 1080p doesn't mean it defeats the purpose of a remake. Because The Last of Us Part 1 on... I hate calling The Last of Us Part 1. The Last of Us on the PS3 ran at 720p, if I'm remembering correctly. And it ran at barely 30 FPS. And it didn't look great. But running at 1080p high settings probably looks better than it used to. And it probably still looks quite good. I also found this article by Eurogamer, because at one point Jaytech says he plays The Last of Us Part 1 on the PS5 at 4K 60 FPS. Now, I'm no expert on performance modes, but I found this article by Eurogamer, and at 4K, the most you're probably getting is 40 FPS. You're not getting 60, because it's running in a different mode. At 60 FPS, you'll be running at 1440p. And the settings are lower, because the people who I've noticed who have played both versions say the game looks better on PC, obviously, even at 1440p. So he's wrong, but also 1080p still looks pretty good. I know so many people who still play at 1080p and it still looks good. 1080p is the best for performance. If you don't know what you're on about, don't talk about it.
Community begging for these types of games to go over to PC, actually play the game.
I do also want to mention this guy, from all of the information I can figure out, is in his 30s. He is in his 30s. Do you know how old I was when I talk about consoles and this console war like he did? I was 14 and I was in high school and I didn't know any better. This guy, from what I know, is mid-30s. And he talks about this, you know. I feel like he doesn't have much going on in his life to go on this YouTube channel and talk about, oh, PlayStation is the best and everything else sucks. You deserve to get bad ports. Now, this isn't the only video I'm going to talk about. I'm also going to talk a little bit about his actual live stream that he does. Sadly, I really don't like the live streams because the only one who doesn't have a toaster mic is Jaytech, funnily enough. All the others don't understand what a mic is. So I do struggle to get through these, but we'll go through.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we're looking for it, but I'm going to just, you know, I'll post my laptop gameplay for you guys to look at. And anybody in the chat, I mean, I give you guys a good 2 minutes. Anybody in the chat, you know, do you know anybody that's on PC that actually plays games? That's just PC only that plays games? Anybody? Because even the lesser PC fans, if I'm not mistaken, their rigs are so weak that they can't run any of the PlayStation exclusives. And again, PlayStation has been putting games on PC for 3 years now. What's going on, Dez? Good morning, man.
So, Jaytech says that all of these people trying to play them on the 10 series are idiots because it obviously won't run on the 10 series. Now, I've pulled up a few articles. So, The Last of Us, minimum requirements are a 1050 Ti. Yeah, recommended is a 3060, which is pretty high, or a 2070. It's pretty high, and I think it is just the VRAM requirements. Spider-Man Remastered, the recommended system requirements are a 1066 gig. Oh, it looks like it's a 10 series. God of War, for the high spec, they recommend a 1070. Oh, what's that? 10 series. Recommended specs, a 1060. And a minimum specs is a 960, even older. So a lot of these PlayStation exclusives do actually recommend 10 series graphics cards. It's only like, you know, the ones that aren't very well optimized, like The Last of Us, that require higher spec PCs.
If you didn't watch the video yesterday, you can watch it after the show. But yes, I did run certain games like Hi-Fi Rush, Sunset Overdrive, Halo Infinite, and Hypercharge Unbox on my laptop. And they all look good. They run good. I'm looking at the.
Now, this isn't like an objective point against him, but something that's I found out that's really annoying is he has motion blur on his games. Now, I know that's not like, and that's just this is a subjective opinion. Motion blur sucks, and his view on his opinion has already fallen apart because he uses motion blur. I don't know anyone who actually likes motion blur, and the only reason you have motion blur on consoles is to miss that awful stutter when you move the camera. Motion blur essentially blurs it, so you can't see that massive stutter. You can still see it because it'll be on the character normally. Like I was playing, this was a couple of years ago now. I was playing, well, a year and a bit. I was playing Uncharted Lost Legacy on the PS4 with my girlfriend because she loves Uncharted. And it was running at, I'd say about 25 FPS. And do you know how they hid the awful frame rate? Motion blur. Now, I despise motion blur. It's like putting Vaseline all over your screen so you can't see what's going on. I don't like blurry vision. The only games where motion blur works are racing games. Now, that's my opinion, but I think it's an opinion a lot of people hold.
Sunset Overdrive, for some weird reason, it went much lower than Hi-Fi Rush, but it was staying anywhere between 30-something and 40-something frames per second. But I was running it at 1080p. I think if I would have put it back to 900p and ran it at 60 frames per second, it would have been good.
So he's just talking about how his laptop cannot run Sunset Overdrive at 1080p 60 fps. It can only run it at 1080p 30 fps. Now this is a very weak laptop we must be talking about here. I think he has the specs in his channel description. Let me have a quick, I've just backed out that video. Oh no, there we go. Right, I need to do this. Oh my god, I'm gonna call this out. I'm probably not. I'm a bit lazy at the moment. His computer is 1654 gig. Yeah, 1650. It's probably about the power of my old laptop that was really awful. Yeah, he said he spent $900 on that. If he spent $900 on an actual computer, it would run circles around how much he paid for that, because laptops are overpriced.
Bro, I'm so glad this happened because this is gonna make Sony reconsider this PC shit. Like, at least it should, right?
It's not on our level.
I hope it keeps happening with every game.
Oh,
Right, another pet peeve of mine. He eats and talks while live streaming. Please do not do that. I do not want to hear your mouth fall. I don't want to hear that while you're making a video. It really annoys me. Also, his friend here, Games for Eternity, is really funny because he's like, I'm glad this is happening. I'm glad ports come out awfully because it'll make Sony reconsider putting games on PC. Do you know what that sounds like? Really sad. I'm happy that people can't play a great game because I love Sony so much. That is really sad. I don't really talk about the others because usually they have awful mics and I can't hear what they're saying anyway. Like True Witty just sounds like he's fucking a toaster when he talks. So I don't really know what he normally says. But it's really sad. So yeah.
do that. Like I don't like I said in my video, I don't think there's a damn problem with The Last of Us Part 1. The game is perfect. I love the game. It's a Game of the Year winner. It's a Game of the Generation series. So it is what it is, right? But
Yep.
you're, like I said, you're running this game on so many different combinations of PCs. It's something's bound to happen. You know what I'm saying? On consoles, every PS5 is the same. Like my digital is the same as your physical. Like we're not getting any difference in performance. On
Nope.
PC, Frantic Animator's PC is completely different from my laptop. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So my girlfriend is sat here, but she doesn't like to talk. But she did say that is a catfish profile on his profile picture because he looks nothing like that. She said, didn't you? Yeah, she nodded. She didn't even want to say yes. Which I kind of agree with. I think he paid someone on Fiverr for it as well. So how do you feel about that? Silence. You're not gonna say anything, okay?
So I don't know. I just think people need to like. I know PC fans can't be that stupid to think that the developer optimized the game for all these different combination of PCs out there. They didn't. They made the game available for PC, but they did not optimize that shit for every combination.
That's because they don't optimize it for every single optimization. I can't believe Jaytech, the true genius, is trying to call other people stupid by not knowing that they don't optimize for every single device. That's not how optimization works. You're from a console world where you don't understand it. Are you scrolling on Jaytech's Instagram? Oh my god. It's one of those things where you optimize for like the hardware you want to hit, which is usually the minimum recommended, and then it kind of works out. The game ready drivers help with the performance and that kind of thing, but you don't know what you're talking about, Jaytech.
Fucking year for movies. If people go out and see them. So this guy, this is an older guy. He's an older guy, an older gamer. He got his setup, a beautiful setup, beautiful webcam frame that he got. Beautiful, looks amazing. And he got his shit. He got Last of Us running at 103 frames per second, almost locked. That's the example that we need. It's nothing wrong with the game. It's something wrong with your PC. Again, it's nothing wrong with the game. It's something wrong with your PC. Your PC is too weak to handle the greatness of The Last of Us. And yes, I said that to piss people off. So yeah, go on and take that clip. Go chop it up. But let's be real, man. Frantic Animator not having a problem.
Now, I forgot what it's called, but when you do an evidence-based system and you only do peer evaluation, and it's the lowest form of evidence-based research because it's only subjective based on like 2 or 3 people. Now, if two or three people are going, this game runs great, but then 50,000 people are saying it runs like absolute arse, I feel like the evidence is that it runs like absolute arse, not the 2 or 3 people going, it runs great, because that is how evidence works. If way more people are saying it's running worse than the others, then even me, I run it high to ultra, run it at 1440p, and I'm getting usually over 60 FPS, closer to like 80, 90, and I know there's an issue because my machine shouldn't be running games that poorly. Also, you've gone on random Twitch channel who you don't know what settings he's running at, you don't know if he's running at 1080p, you don't know what he's running at, you've just gone, oh, he's getting 106 FPS, that means it runs well. He is in a menu right now. He is sat down looking at a menu in the game. If I stare at the floor in The Last of Us, I get about 120 FPS. Staring at the floor or staring at a menu, you will get a high frame rate. That's just how it works. So you've obviously took 2 seconds. This isn't evidence. What is this? This is a joke on evidence.
Little webcam setup. It's like small, but it's a lot of shit going on. You got a nice little fucking professional setup. That shit's fire.
Now, here I am. I found it now. So what he's doing is anecdotal evidence, which is actually the lowest form of research and is actually the least useful. Anecdotal evidence is never used professionally because it's useless. 1 or 2 people saying it worked great. It's actually how the fitness industry is getting away with all of this. There's some guys going, this supplement made me go from £200 lift to £700. It was beautiful. That's anecdotal evidence. It's not actually accepted. I am taking a bunch of people's different reviews and looking at them. So when a lot of people say it's not running too well, but then 1 or 2 people say actually it runs great, you don't look at the 1 or 2 people. You look at it as a whole. So you include the 1 or 2, but you include the 50,000 people who are going, actually it doesn't run that well. Anecdotal evidence is awful. So as I said, as soon as he looks away, his frame rate drops to the 80s. Yeah, from 108, 106 to 86 is still pretty good, but that's where most performance falls into. That's how mine runs, about 80s-ish, and that shows that when he just went, oh yeah, it's running at 106 FPS, it runs great in a menu, obviously, I have just proved my point. Ha.
Gotta delete that one out of the script. No, I'm just saying, like, not everybody's having a problem with The Last of Us.
That's good. That means he has a good PC.
I said not everybody, but yes, most of the people are. But not everybody, but most people are, and most people have weak ass PCs, and that's why they're having problems.
So here he basically justifies what he just said. Not everyone's having issues, but most people are, and that's because most people have weak PCs. It's a bit of a confusing statement, because on Steam there are 150 million active users. 1% of those have a certain graphics card, let's say. 1% of 150 million is 1.5 million. That is a lot of people. Now, you saying most people are struggling, yeah, let's say 50,000 people buy the game. I don't know how many people buy the game. I don't know. I don't really care about sales. I'm a normal human being who goes about their daily life, who doesn't really care about how many sales a game gets. No, I don't. And yeah, like, I don't know what I'm saying now because my girlfriend's distracted me by saying that I do care about sales when I don't.
And with the glitch, yeah, he does. Did Iron Galaxy port it? I think Iron Galaxy did, but this is a fucking crazy game, bro. They were Naughty
Iron
Dog was
Galaxy,
doing a lot
Iron,
of different
Alex,
things with it.
listen. Iron Galaxy ported it, but the problem is, the PCs that are trying to play it are very weak.
True.
So, there is a benefit to this actually. They were talking about how the PCs that are trying to run it are very weak. I just want to throw this in there again. It's not really a point about Jaytech himself, but a point about the entirety of PlayStation. You can't get a refund on PlayStation games as far as I know. Can you, Annie?
Not as good as the PC.
So if you buy a game, play it for 2 hours, can you get a refund?
No, I think when you open it, you can't get a refund.
There you go. You probably didn't
But
hear
don't
her,
quote
but
me on it, though.
when she played on PS4, you couldn't get a refund if you'd opened the game.
Yeah, I think so.
So these people actually have a better refund policy on Steam than most people. You can play it for 2 hours. I've even had it where I played Dying Light 2 for 10 hours and I complained enough and I got a full refund for it. It was only to my Steam credit, but good enough. It's one of those things again where at least we have that. But on to the main point, a lot of PCs aren't that weak. I don't think a 1060 is still that weak. I think a 1080 is very strong still, and a 1080 Ti is even better. I think I'm going to stop the video here because I think I'm just repeating the same things over and over, basically that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I think I'm getting a bit tired of listening to him not know what he's talking about. Actually, I'm not, but otherwise it's going to go on forever. So yeah, you don't need to subscribe or like because I never upload anyway. If you want to, you can. Bye.